Well, hey guys, welcome to June's edition of She Flourishes, a podcast by women and for women. My name is Eden Richardson, and I'm the discipleship director here at First Baptist Rock Hill, and I'm so excited to have Jenny Proven, who is a consultant for the South Carolina Baptist Convention, and so we are super excited to get to hear from her today. She has a lot of great wisdom and insight when it comes to leadership. So we'll get started right off the bat. So Jenny, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do, and then how do we know each other?
Yes. So as you said, I am a consultant for the South Carolina Baptist Convention. I've had the privilege of working with many different teams at the convention, helping develop materials for leadership development, helping bring people into a space where they can learn in a lab type setting, and then they go out and they're able to share with other churches and tell their people at their church how to lead, how to love their neighbors well. So it's been a lot of fun. Currently, I'm also working as a program manager for a nonprofit. It's a national nonprofit, but I work in Charlotte. It's called A Kid Again. And at A Kid Again, we provide families who are raising kids with life-threatening conditions a time out from illness and treatment. So my job there is to plan a lot of fun things. I get to plan adventures at Carowinds with the Carolina Panthers, with the zoo, so it's a lot lot of fun. I met you, I think, about this time last year, probably July last year, and I vividly remember when we met. We went to Charleston with the South Carolina Baptist Convention. It was a women's ministry leadership retreat, and you had rode with a bunch of ladies from the convention in Columbia, so I came in my own car. I remember parking in this tiny little alleyway in Charleston and getting out of my car and hearing, "Jenny from Rock Hill!" And I was like, who is this person? I don't even know. And so that was my very first impression of you. And I will always remember that and loved meeting you and getting to know you. And over the past year, we've had the privilege, since we do live in close proximity, to get together for coffee and hang out and just encourage one another. So
and you're a great mentor of mine, which God just definitely did that. I remember, I was in the car with those ladies, and they said that Jenny Proven was doing our leadership training for the week.
Right.
And I said, well, where is Jenny from? And they said, Rock Hill. And I said, Jenny from Rock Hill? I said, oh, that means we can be friends. We can meet. We can hang out.
That's right.
So I was super excited about that. Well, it has just been so much fun getting to know you and your heart and your just love for ladies and seeing them lead other ladies well in a way that, exemplifies Christ-like leadership. So we met, like you said, at the SC Baptist Women's Ministry Leadership Retreat in Charleston, where you taught something called the 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership. And I just remember when you were teaching, I was soaking it all in. It was so good. So could you tell us a little bit more about this?
Absolutely. So the 4 Dimensions of Extraordinary Leadership is an idea from another Jenny, Jenny Catron. You've probably heard of her. She is a well-known author. She does a podcast of her own, I believe, has her own website, but she wrote this book about the 4 dimensions of extraordinary leadership, and she took it from the scripture, the greatest commandment of loving the Lord your God with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so she really dissected, when we lead, we can lead with a holistic approach, because God made us with a heart, soul, mind, strength, and we can lead from a place that encompasses all of those areas as we're leading others. But she also talked about we're probably stronger in one area versus another. And so that doesn't mean that we're doing something wrong, or we need to do better, or we need to get more leadership development skills. There is a place for that, and we'll chat about that. But mainly, God has gifted each of us uniquely, and so we're all going to lead in a different way. And ultimately, when we're leading from our heart, soul, mind, and strength, we're leading in the way that Jesus led, how he commanded. And we see that modeled throughout Scripture, specifically in the New Testament, as he interacts with his disciples and people, that he leads from a place of his heart, soul, mind, and strength. And when we lead holistically like that, we're modeling Jesus and how he led. And what a better person to model when you're leading someone, right? I mean, I want to emulate Jesus. I want to lead like him and love like him. And so starting from a place of understanding, where are my strengths? How do I do that? What does that look like? But also understanding that even though I have strengths in certain areas, there's some pitfalls that can kind of come into play. And so just being really aware of, what do I do well? What do I kind of need to be aware of when I'm leading? And then how do I look at those other areas that maybe I'm not as strong leading in, and how do I bring those into the leadership that I display to the people I lead? So.
Yeah, and I remember the assessment that we did. It was so helpful for me to see where I kind of tend towards as a leader.
Absolutely.
Whether it's heart, soul, mind, or strength. And for me, I lean towards leading with my heart, right? And so there are definitely strengths to that. And then there are also, like you said, those pitfalls. So I want to talk a little bit about each one of those components, the heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so how do you love the Lord and lead from a place with all of your heart? And for those that love and lead the Lord mainly with their heart, they lead others with their heart. What are some of their strengths and pitfalls? So we're talking about me here.
And I'll just go ahead and say this is probably one that I didn't score as high on the assessment, but leading from your heart is really, that's a relational leader. That's someone who it becomes very naturally to them to see others as people and not projects, to really care, to show compassion. As a leader, people gravitate to these types of leaders because they are showing that care and compassion. I mean, who doesn't want to be led by someone who genuinely cares about who they are as a person and not just the product that they're putting out? So these people, when they lead and they lead with those relationships, people, it's a magnet. So people are probably attracted to you in that when you say, how are you? Like you really mean it. Or, hey, let's grab coffee, because you really want to hear how they're doing, what's going on in their life, what are they struggling with, how can you help support them? So automatically you can see the strengths of these leaders because they really they really care about others and they really want to get to know the people that they lead. With that, some of the pitfalls that come into play is sometimes when a leader leads from their heart and they're strong in that area, people can tend to take advantage of that. People sometimes don't listen to their authority because they see them as a friend over an authority in their leadership. And so if something might not be going well and you have to have a tough conversation with someone, they even might take it a little harder than another volunteer, another person that you're leading, because you have built that friendship and you've done that so well. So that's definitely a pitfall that those that lead with their heart have to watch. Not to say stiff arm the people you lead, but just be aware that sometimes people might see me more of as a friend than the authority, the leader that God's called me to be wherever I am.
That authority figure.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so we have those that tend to lead others with their heart, and then we also have those that tend to lead others more with their soul. So we call them soul leaders, right? And so for those that mainly lead others with their soul, what are some of their strengths and pitfalls?
Yes, absolutely. So those that lead with their soul, these are the natural leaders who are going to say, hey, let's stop and pray about that.
So they're your praying time. They're the ones when you say, hey, can I pray for you?
Exactly.
They're going to do it right there.
Absolutely. They're going to say, let's stop right now. Let's pray. They're the ones that people naturally go to and gravitate to when there's tough questions about faith. When they have questions about scripture, they're the ones that are leading with a mindset of what is the most God-honoring thing I can do as a leader in this moment. Not that we all probably don't think that way, but this is top of mind for them. They really are coming from a place of, I want to honor God. I want to lead the people that I lead. They have a disciple mindset. Naturally, some of us have to think harder about that. This type of leader, it's a natural way that they lead the others in their circles. Now, some of their pitfalls, some of the things that they have to be careful about are the nice girl, nice guy mentality, or labels, not mentality, the label. And what I mean by that is because they are leading from a place of a connection, that spiritual connection, people might look at them and they're so nice because they are really trying to honor God with their words, their actions, their thoughts. They're very careful. And because of that, sometimes we walk over these leaders. And when you're leading from a place like that, it's hard not to have bitterness and resentment sometimes. So that can be a pitfall. And by that, I mean, this is typically the type of leader who stays and stacks all the chairs in the room at the end, or sees the trash on the ground and picks up, and, you know, they're being a really good steward of the place that God has given them, so they're taking great care, but they start to get, well, why isn't that person helping me? Why do they get to leave? Why don't they see the trash on the floor? Why am I always one? Yes. And why am I the one that's always praying and having these tough conversations? So you just have to be careful if you lead from that area. If you start to feel yourself going that way, to really stop, think, pause, pray for yourself, and seek others around you who have other strengths and help them, have them help you lead in a different way. So
yeah, absolutely. So some of their pitfalls are kind of similar to those that lead with their heart,
Correct,
right? You know,
correct.
so they have some similarities there.
Yes, absolutely.
So we talked about leading with our heart, leading with our soul, and then we have those people that tend to lead with their mind.
Yes.
And we love these people. I'm married to one, and it's great because you know where I tend to lead others with my heart, and I can fool him with that. He's really good with the mind, and so even in marriage it balances out. So it's crazy how God does that.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about those that tend to lead with their mind. What does that look like? And then, you know, of course, we've talked about strength and pitfalls for each one of these categories so far. Let's talk a little bit about the mind. What are some of their strengths and pitfalls of leading from that area?
Yes, the mind, the people that lead strength their mind, these are the people in your organization that know the what and the how, and they have a plan to make it happen.
There's a systematic process for everything.
Yes, and these people are needed in organizations. And so their strength is making those strategic plans, seeing that, hey, we need to get from A to B to C, and this is the plan. This is the way that we're going to do that. They think through all of the details. So if you aren't detail-oriented, you want someone who leads with their mind on your team, because they're going to check all the boxes. They're going to have all of the details. They're going to ask the questions to make sure that you're moving forward. So those are their strengths. Their pitfalls, because they are so detail-oriented, strategic, ready to move. They can see things that other people don't see in the organization. They can come across as arrogant. People, and the arrogance comes from them asking questions. I may or may not have been nicknamed a bubble buster at a previous
bubble buster.
Yes, because people would, you know, I have this idea, and they would say, I think we should do this, and I would automatically, well, what about this? And what about this? And have you thought about this? And it's not because I thought they had a bad idea, or because I didn't think the idea wouldn't work. I wanted it to work. I wanted it to succeed because they were my friends and I wanted their plans and their ideas to work. But I just immediately, it's like they can't turn it off. You see the things that no one else sees that could potentially derail you. And so people often don't come to them because they're the ones that are going to ask questions, or they
pop the bubble.
Yes, every time I have an idea, they just shoot it down. No, they're really just trying to help you move forward. This leadership style is also the one that you have to be really careful that you see people as people and not projects or tasks, or people that can complete the projects and tasks. So a lot of people that lead with their mind, they are seeing that end result. This is how we get there, and this is how this person in that position can make this happen. And sometimes they forget that they're people and they have feelings and thoughts. And, you know, if something comes up, they can get irritated really easy because it derails the system or the process. So those are some of the pitfalls that people that lead with their mind really have to be careful about.
So whereas maybe with the other components, like leading with your strength, your heart and soul, you may be a big picture person. Sometimes those people that lead with their mind can come in and say, hey, have you thought through this, this, and this?
Correct.
And they're doing that in a way that's, they're really caring about those things. They want to see that certain event or whatever it is succeed.
Absolutely. Yes, but sometimes they can come across as abrasive, or, you know, you don't want to go to that person because you have this great idea. And then you come back with a to-do list that's
You're
5
like,
I thought we had everything. Yes, so absolutely, yes.
Yes, we've talked about those that lead with their heart, those that lead with their soul, and then those that tend to lead with their mind. Let's talk about those that tend to lead with their strength.
Yes.
This was something I was really excited to learn about on a retreat last year, because I didn't know exactly what that looks like. So it was really informative and helpful to learn about those types of people. So what about those that lead with their strengths?
Yes.
You know, what are their strengths? Those that lead with their strengths, and then their pitfalls as well.
So when you think of leading with your strength, I automatically have a certain movie come to mind where there's a character and she has the really big muscles and is like holding everything up. It's not about physical strength. It's really about the strength of being able to set the big picture vision.
So the visionary people.
Correct. These are your visionaries. They see the big picture. They understand. A lot of times this leader has the they know, they have sought in prayer, or they know that God has told them, this is the way we're moving. This is where we are going. And they set that tone for whatever organization, their environment that they're leading. And so they're carrying, I think, strength. That's why they're carrying that big picture, that vision. And so the strength of that is they can see the big picture and vision, because we all know when we lead, or if we've been a part of an organization and we've been told, like, here's the big picture, sometimes it takes a really long time to get there. And there are a lot of
things.
Correct. There are a lot of things that happen along the way that might start to, like, is this really where we're going? Are we really, did they really hear that right? Is that really the vision that God has for our church or this organization? And so that leader who is strong in that, they are yes, we are going here. This is where we're going. We've got this. Let's go. They're in it for the long haul. That is a strength of theirs. They don't quickly back out. They know this is what God has given me as the vision. We're going to go. Now the pitfalls with that are because they are constantly cheerleading and yes, the rah, rah, rah person, sometimes they feel like an imposter because they may start to doubt and worry when things go off the rails a little bit or it's taking longer to get somewhere than they thought it should take. And so they feel like an imposter because they're having to rally the troops, so to speak. And so when they're doing that constantly and they're starting to doubt and worry and not feel that, it's like, did I hear right? Am I doing this right? So that's something that can really come into play for the big picture. Are the people that have the strength as their top category of leading. They really have to be careful about the doubt and really, have that cemented that, no, God called me to do this, or God called us to go here. Correct, the confidence, yes. So the imposter syndrome, the doubt, the worry, those can become some pitfalls for those types of leaders that score high in that area.
Absolutely. So we all probably tend to lead towards one of these four categories, whether it's leading with our heart or our soul or our mind and our strength. Correct. So, whereas I may be strong in leading with my heart, that means I may be not as strong in another area. So how can we grow so we can holistically lead in these different categories of loving the Lord and leading others with all of our heart, soul, mind, and strength? Absolutely. How can we grow in areas that we are weak?
Yeah, that's hard. I would say that for sure. Because it's natural for us to lead out of our strengths. We don't have to work at it, right? It just comes out of us. It's not something we have to learn or do. It's just naturally how God has designed us and created us and even placed us. Like, he's going to put you in certain leadership positions for certain seasons and certain times because he knows you have the skill set for what is needed in that moment. So it's really easy for us to gravitate to the strengths. The weaknesses, sometimes we don't want to deal with those, or we dwell on those. And so we have to be careful that we are leading from our strengths and that if we know there's a weakness, we need to have awareness. I think that's it's burying your head in the sand and saying, oh, I know I'm weak at that, or making excuses. I don't think that's how God would ask us to lead because he wants us to lead holistically. So for me, I know in areas where I am weak, I tend to try to surround myself with people who are strong in those areas. So I actively look for people that can come alongside me and lead with me. Like if I know, okay, I'm really good. So for instance, I'm probably mind is one of my top ones. Details, organization, strategy. I would look for an Eden. I would pull Eden in with me.
It's funny. I gravitate towards those that lead with their mind. It's funny how.
Yes. So, and that happens too. I think you naturally know, like, hey, I'm not great at this. And Eden is amazing at this. I mean, I'm not going to get out of a car and yell, Jenny from Rock Hill. Let's have coffee.
Met you. But Jenny from Rock Hill. That's really how I approach
it. I'm going to sit back and watch and get to hear your name first. So so you need to look for the people that complement your areas of weakness and not see them as a threat. See them as someone who's going to help make you stronger and lead better and to ultimately move you towards that mission, vision, goal that God has placed on your heart. And so I would definitely I would also encourage people, because I have done coaching and am certified in coaching, I have found tremendous help in reaching out to a coach in leadership who helps me see my weaknesses. And when an exercise that we do that anyone can do, you don't need a coach to do this. It's called the drainers and gainers exercise.
I think we did this a few weeks ago when you were mentoring. You talked to me about that.
So it's like you are really having a hard time leading in a certain area. Like it is just sucking you dry. That's the drainer. Just making a list of these are the things that are draining me. And it can be simple as making phone calls. That drains me. I do not like to call people on the phone. I'd rather text or email you any day. So if I know I have to make an important call and I keep putting it off, that would go on my drainer list. Draining would be checking in with all the volunteers and just seeing how their week is going. That doesn't come natural to me. So those were things that I would put on my drain. Now the gainers list, I might look at my week and my to-do list and say, I love doing this. I love thinking strategically about what's next for our organization or for our ministry. I love being able to put together the spreadsheet of who's here for this time, or this is what we're going to do for this, and just like very tactical things. And it may look different, but then what I do is I take that list of the drainers and the gainers, and I say, okay, these things drain me, and I know they drain me, and instead of dwelling on them and just keep putting them on a different date in my planner, because I like to cross it off, so if I don't get it done, I'll just move it to another day. Who is really good at this on my team that I might be able to ask to help me do this? Or I'm the one that has to do this. I can't give this to someone on my team. Let me put it at the beginning of the week so it's done.
Yeah.
And it's not taking up that mental space and draining me the entire week. So just kind of looking at the ways that you lead and making it work for you, and inviting other people to come alongside you and help you.
Yeah,
sure.
and I think it's really important. I think Pastor Hogg, I said this before, but soar with your strengths.
Yes.
And manage your weaknesses.
Yes.
You know?
Yes,
so those
absolutely.
things that make me, that the Lord's given me, and things that make you, like we're able to soar at those, and God's using those in different capacities.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
me and you are both in a position where we're leading a team of people, and you guys may be listening, and you're leading a team of people, whether it be at work or wherever you may be. So how do you, Jenny, because you do this really well, how do you lead a team of people effectively? And what has kind of been your experience with that? Because when you have people that you are loving on and also leading, right? It's important to do it effectively. So I want to ask you a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think the older I get and the further removed from some experiences I've had, I wish I would have done things differently. I didn't mention, but I used to work in children's ministry. So I led a children's ministry team for probably 15 years at two different churches, but we had teams of volunteers and leadership teams. And so a lot of experience there. I'm leading a team where I'm currently at, but some things that I think I've learned along the way that felt effective, or I received feedback that was effective, communicating well.
Yeah.
So by that, I mean just the mission and vision, really communicating your mission and vision to your team over and over and over. And
The why.
And when you think you've said it one time's too many, say it again.
Yeah.
But helping them really, that helps them understand, why are we doing what we're doing? So it's not just a bunch of words. This is like why we're doing what we're doing. And then setting very clear expectations. So if you're a part of this team, your role in this team is X, Y, Z. And here's what we ask you to do. It's no fun to volunteer or to go into any situation and not really know what to expect.
No
None of
clarity.
us really like that.
Right.
Even if you're a spontaneous fly by the seat of your pants, you still kind of want to know what you're walking into. So just being very clear. I think effectively leading looks like loving others well. And that's one thing I wish I would have done a little differently. Just really seeing people for who they are and how God designed them and made them, and caring about their personal lives, cheerleading them, affirming them for specific things that you see. So the I see in you conversations that you can have with people, people know when you're just saying, good job, you did so good, or hey, I see this in you.
You point out something specific.
Right. Or you know when you pulled that child to the side in the hallway and spoke affirmation to them and was calm and you did such a good job. You really helped form that wasn't like behavior modification. You're really talking to that child in the heart of what they were doing. So very specific feedback, letting people know that you see them, you see their contribution, you see their value to the team. I also think leading effectively looks like replacing yourself. And so what I mean by that, it's finding those people that complement your strengths because their strengths are not your strengths, inviting them to the team, allowing them to contribute, giving them leadership opportunities, being okay with it not looking like it the way you would do things exactly. So handing off things and then saying, you know what, that might not be the way I would do it, but they're doing it from their strengths and how God's designed them. And ultimately replacing yourself. What I mean by that is, would the organization, the ministry, the mission, vision still move forward if you were to step away? So ultimately, as a leader, that's really what you should be doing the whole time, is figuring out how to replace yourself so that others can lead. Because it's not about you. If you're making it about you and centered around you, I would have to probably
when you leave, so does the certain organization or whatever it may be.
Yes. And we've all probably been a part of an organization where we've watched a leader step away and then everybody starts to kind of
follow suit.
Right. So you really want to help people understand it's not about, now people will gravitate to you if they like your personality, your friendships, but it's not about you. It's about the mission and vision of the organization and making that clear and replacing yourself helps things thrive and keep going forward.
Kind of passing that baton.
Correct.
Kind of reminds me of Paul and Timothy, you
Yes.
know, who's always
Yes.
raising. So I love that. So kind of talking a little bit biblically about what we can learn from Christ's leadership, because you know he was the ultimate leader.
Yes.
He led from a place of humility. We learn about that in the
Absolutely.
scriptures, and so he also led with authority. So I want to talk a little bit about that, because as leaders, we're often in a position where we have to speak with both grace and truth.
Yes.
And Jesus did this perfectly. So how can we learn from Christ's leadership, and how can that affect the way that we lead others?
Yeah. So the number one thing I would say, and I say this because I watched it happen to myself as a leader, and I watch it happen to others, especially in a ministry setting, is abiding in him. And so Christ's example was going away to the garden to pray, taking those moments to talk to his Father. And so a lot of times for those of us in ministry, sometimes the work of the ministry can replace our one-on-one relationship. And
Yes.
I know that's not surprising or new information. We hear that. It's harder said than done.
And we think, oh, we're doing things for the Lord,
Correct.
so we're good.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I think definitely abiding in him and making that a priority. And so it may look different in different seasons of leadership. You may not have time to join the Bible study where it takes 1 to 4 hours of homework a week.
Right.
And then you have to go somewhere and be a part of the Bible study. And you may not have time to really dive deep in with a group of women into a study at this season. But you have to find something to fill yourself up, to abide in him, to find your strength and your source, your energy source from him first. So I think he modeled that very well for us in Scripture. I think another way that we can lead like Jesus, the great commandment of loving the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength that we've been talking about, the next part says, and love your neighbor as yourself. So loving others well. I know I've said it over and over, but really seeing people for who they are. Not what they do, not what they produce, but really genuinely loving others well. And that's easier said than done, because we all know in leadership there are certain personalities or
We just
certain
don't click with, yeah.
Correct. So it's really hard sometimes to love others as you love yourself. And then I think we follow his example with that humble spirit that you were talking about. It's not about us. If it ever becomes about you, or, if you just put those guardrails in place, I'm thinking of like a bowling alley, where they have the bumpers for the kids,
Right. Those boundaries.
if you start to hit those bumpers, find someone in your life that you trust, that you can be very honest with and say, I think I'm making this about me. And those people need to be able to look at you and say, yeah, you might be, and not, no,
Right.
it's fine. So just being really careful about having that humble servant heart, and really making sure that everything you're doing is for the glory of God, and that it is for the mission and vision, and not to promote yourself or to place yourself in a higher place, authority or leadership.
Yeah. One of my mentors told me growing up is you can't smell your own bad breath.
Yes.
Right? So the analogy is,
Yes.
While that's true, it's also true when it comes to leadership. You
Correct.
can't always see
Correct.
areas where you may not be as strong, but others can. So making sure that we as leaders place ourselves around people like me with you,
Yes.
I always,
Yes.
place myself with you because you are a mentor of mine who I trust to point out those flaws in me so that I can best follow the Lord and lead in a way that
Absolutely.
emulates him,
And I would say if you have a mentor who is maybe giving you that unsolicited advice or
Right.
just coming at you really harsh, that's not the way of Jesus either. So
yeah.
it's okay to find someone else who speaks truth in love
Right.
to you and is
Both are
not beating
important.
you over the head. Yes, that, hey, you're doing this wrong, or unsolicited potentially. Correct.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said about abiding in the Lord. I think as leaders, we really, as believers, we need to do that. Candy Galley has said in order to survive and thrive, we have to abide. And I think, and you would probably agree with this, that as leaders, we lead not from the stage.
Correct.
We lead from our daily lives. And so that Monday morning, that Tuesday afternoon, that's how we're leading others.
Yes.
And so in order to lead others well, I think what you said hit the nail on the head. We have to first abide in the Lord and learn from Him and let Him inform our leadership style.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. Yes.
So good.
Yes.
I love that. Well, this has been so much fun
been
and so
fun.
informative. I feel like I want to take notes all over again from what you're saying.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. But we are in the summer season,
Yes.
which is not my favorite season. I'm a big fall girl.
Same.
I don't do heat, but it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's
Everything's
fine.
fine. So next week we're looking forward to July 4th.
Yes.
So still lots of fun summer things coming up.
Yes.
So I want to ask you, tell us something fun. What are you looking forward to about the remainder of the summer?
There are two things. One is summer and one is kind of fall, but it's probably still summer. So, and they both involve the beach.
Yeah.
But we're headed to the beach this weekend with my husband's family. We go every year with his whole side of the family. So we're headed to Ocean Isle in a few days, and we just spend a week unplugged, enjoying each other, having a great time. And then in September, I celebrated my 25th wedding anniversary back in February. So my husband and I get a whole week at the beach by ourselves in September. So those are two things that are super fun. I'm not a huge summer girl, but the beach has grown on me the older I get, just sitting and reading and relaxing and listening to the water and the waves. So I'm really excited about those two things coming up.
So fun.
Yes.
I'm a big food person, so I think I'm here in the summer for all the grilled hamburgers and hot dogs.
Yes. Now,
that is my thing in the summer.
Yes.
So.
Ice cream is one of my favorite things, but specifically soft serve ice cream.
Yes.
Chocolate and vanilla twist. With rainbow sprinkles. And so I will be grabbing that at the Ocean Isle Pier soon after we arrive. So I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah. Well, this has been so much fun, ladies. We hope that you have lots of fun things in store for the rest of your summer. But most importantly, we pray that you continue to abide in the Lord and grow amongst your D group, and that you read the Bible reading plan, and that you learn from the Lord what it looks like to lead others in your sphere. Jenny, thanks for coming. And ladies, we will see you next time for our July edition of She Flourishes.